The afternoon sky was heavy with clouds, the kind that seemed to hold back tears just like Sam did. The sound of rain tapping against the tin roof echoed softly through the small garden, where she stood beside the chicken coop she and Ly had built together weeks ago. The scent of wet earth filled the air, and for a moment, everything felt still, too still, as if the world was holding its breath. Ly arrived, his shirt slightly drenched from the drizzle, his expression both nervous and determined. He had rehearsed the words in his mind 100 times, but now, standing in front of her, this humble woman with gentle eyes and worn hands, all his confidence melted away. "Sam," he said softly, taking a step closer, "I have something to tell you." She looked up, startled by the sudden seriousness in his tone. Her heart trembled, not because she didn't know what was coming, but because deep down, she did. "I've tried to deny it," Ly continued, his voice sincere and raw. "But every day I spend with you, helping you, listening to you, it just makes it clearer. Sam, I love you." The rain seemed to grow louder. Sam froze, her breath catching in her throat. For a few seconds, she said nothing, only the faint sound of water dripping from the leaves between them. Then she slowly shook her head. "Ly," she began, her voice trembling. "Don't say that." "Why not?" he asked, stepping forward. "Is it so wrong for me to love you?" Sam looked away. The pain in her eyes was sharper than any blade. "Because love like that doesn't last," she whispered. "You're rich, Ly. You have everything. I'm just a poor single mother who's trying to survive. I don't belong in your world." Ly's chest tightened. "Sam, I don't care about—" But she cut him off, tears glimmering in her lashes. "No, Ly, you should care. One day, you'll wake up and realize I'm not the woman you were meant to love. You'll pity me. And pity isn't love." The rain poured harder now, as if the sky itself felt the heartbreak between them. Ly stood silently, his confession hanging in the air, unreturned. Sam turned away, her hands clutching the edge of her shawl, trying to steady herself and hide the tear that slipped down her cheek. That was the day she refused him. Not because she didn't feel the same, but because she was afraid that the bridge between wealth and poverty could not hold the weight of love. And as Ly watched her walk back into the house, he realized that love, no matter how true, sometimes drowns in the silence between two beating hearts. The morning after Sam's rejection, the village was cloaked in mist. Dew glistened on the leaves, and the faint crowing of roosters echoed from a distance. Ly stood by the bamboo fence they had built together, the fence that once symbolized teamwork and quiet happiness, now feeling like a fragile line dividing two worlds. He hadn't slept all night. Sam's words kept replaying in his mind like an unending echo. "Love between rich and poor doesn't last." Each syllable carried a weight that pressed against his chest. It wasn't anger that filled him, but sorrow. Sorrow because he knew her words came not from pride, but from fear. Ly exhaled slowly and looked toward the small house where Sam lived. The smoke from her kitchen rose faintly into the air, curling like a sigh. He saw her figure through the open window, tying her hair back, preparing breakfast for her son. Everything she did was careful, humble, and filled with quiet dignity. "She deserves more than fear," he murmured to himself. "She deserves to know what real love means." That day Ly made a decision. If words could not convince her, then he would let his actions speak louder. He began visiting the village more often, not as a CEO, but as a man who wanted to belong. He helped the neighbors repair fences, carried sacks of rice for the elders, even joined the children in mending kites that tore in the wind. Slowly, the people around Sam started to accept him, not as a wealthy outsider, but as someone willing to live simply, to understand their world. Meanwhile, Sam tried to distance herself. Every time she saw him helping in the fields, she looked away, pretending not to notice, but deep inside, her heart trembled with confusion. "Why does he keep coming back?" she whispered one evening while watering her small vegetable patch. "Doesn't he see I'm trying to protect both of us?" Her son, standing nearby, smiled innocently. "Mom, Uncle Ly said he'll fix the chicken coop tomorrow. Can he come early? Sam froze. The name Uncle Lee fell so naturally from her child's lips that it hurt. She turned toward the fading sunset, trying to swallow the strange warmth rising inside her. Lee kept his promise. He arrived early the next morning, bringing tools and food from the city. He didn't mention his confession, didn't ask for forgiveness. Instead, he worked quietly beside her, hammering, cutting, fixing all without expecting anything in return. At one point, when Sam's hand accidentally brushed his, she pulled back quickly, but Lee simply smiled. "It's okay, Sam," he said softly. "You don't have to be afraid of love. Not all love hurts." For a moment, the world seemed to pause. The only sound was the rhythm of their hearts and the soft chirping of birds above. Sam looked away, her eyes glistening. She didn't answer, but her silence carried something different now. Less rejection, more hesitation, perhaps even hope. And though the distance between them still existed, Lee knew something had changed. The wall Sam had built around her heart had begun to crack, just slightly, but enough for light to start seeping through. The next few weeks drifted by slowly, like autumn leaves carried by a soft wind. Sam tried to keep her days busy, tending the garden, feeding the chickens, sewing clothes for her son, anything to keep her mind away from the man who had begun to haunt her thoughts. But no matter how hard she tried, Lee's image lingered everywhere, in the repaired fence, in the laughter of her child, even in the faint smell of tea that seemed to remain after he left. One evening, as she sat outside her house watching the sunset paint the sky in gold, a familiar sound of an engine approached. Lee's car stopped in front of her small gate. He stepped out, his shirt slightly wrinkled from the long drive, but his eyes filled with a tenderness that made Sam's heart skip a beat. "Sam," he said softly, "I brought you something." He opened the trunk and took out a small wooden box. Inside were new seeds, tomato, cucumber, and flowers, and a pair of gardening gloves. "I saw you using your bare hands," Lee smiled. "I thought, maybe you'd need these." Sam hesitated. She wanted to say thank you, but the words tangled in her throat. Instead, she just looked down at the gloves and whispered, "You shouldn't keep doing this for me. People will talk, and your family." At the mention of his family, Lee's smile faded slightly. That same morning, his mother had called him, her tone cold and sharp. "Lee, people are starting to gossip. That woman to Sam is not your equal. You will ruin our family's name if you keep seeing her." He had tried to reason with her, but his mother's words sliced through him like knives. "Love cannot feed you, son. You belong to a world she will never understand." Now, standing before Sam, he could still hear those words echoing in his mind. But instead of turning away, he took a deep breath and said, "Let them talk. Let the world say what it wants. I don't care about status or money. I care about what's real, and that's you." Sam's eyes widened, her heart trembling. "You don't understand, Lee. Love is not just about the heart. When reality strikes poverty, responsibility, the difference between our worlds, love can break, and it hurts more than anything." Lee stepped closer, his voice low and steady. "Then let it break on me, not on you. I'll carry that pain if I must. But I won't walk away from you, Sam." Her lips parted, but no words came out. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, heavy, intimate, filled with unspoken truths. Just then, her little boy ran out, holding a drawing he had made. "Uncle Lee, look, it's you and Mom and me in the garden." Lee knelt down, smiling, his eyes soft. "That's beautiful. You drew it perfectly." Sam looked at the picture, the three of them standing together under the sun, smiling, and something inside her cracked open. She saw in that innocent drawing not just a child's imagination, but the family she had always secretly wished for. Yet fear still chained her heart. When Lee left that night, she stood by the door, watching the red glow of his taillights disappear into the darkness. She whispered to herself, "Why does love have to feel so close, yet still so impossible?" Her heart wanted to believe, but her mind still whispered caution. And as the moon rose high above the quiet village, Sam realized that the battle between fear and love had only just begun. The morning air was cool and calm, but inside Sam's heart, a storm raged quietly. The sun filtered through the bamboo fence she and Ly had built together, casting thin rays of light over her garden. The flowers Ly had given her had begun to bloom, soft yellow petals opening as if to remind her of him every time she tried to forget. For days, Sam had not seen Ly. Not a single message, not even a call. The silence felt heavier than rejection itself. She told herself it was better this way, that he should go back to his world, far away from the small, simple life she led. But late at night, when everything was still, she caught herself missing him, wondering what he was doing, whether he still thought of her. Then one afternoon, as she returned from the market carrying a basket of vegetables, she saw him standing by her gate, pale, tired, yet determined. "Ly," she whispered, her breath catching in surprise. "Why are you here?" He looked at her for a moment, eyes glistening with something deeper than exhaustion. "I came to tell you the truth, Sam. I can't keep living between two worlds anymore." She frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Ly sighed, running a hand through his hair. "My mother, she wants me to return to the city, to marry a woman she chose. She said she won't accept you, no matter what I say. I tried to reason with her, but she gave me a choice, her, or you." The words hit Sam like a wave. Her chest tightened, her fingers trembling as she clutched the edge of her basket. "Then go, Ly. You know what's right. Family always comes first." Ly's voice broke slightly. "Sam, I don't want to lose you. I can rebuild my life, but not without you in it. Don't ask me to walk away." She turned from him, her heart aching with every word. "You think love alone can conquer everything, but it can't. One day, you'll regret giving up your world for me. I don't want to be the reason you hate yourself." He stepped closer, gently taking her hand. "Listen to me, Sam. I've lived with money, success, luxury, but none of it meant anything until I met you. You taught me what real peace feels like, what love really is. Please don't push me away because you're afraid." Tears welled up in her eyes. "You don't understand, Ly. I've seen what happens when two worlds collide. People like me don't get fairy tale endings." Ly looked at her, his voice trembling with emotion. "Then let's write our own ending." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The world seemed to fade, leaving only the sound of the wind rustling through the cornfield and the quiet rhythm of their hearts. Finally, Sam whispered, "Love is not enough, Ly. Not when the world stands against it." She pulled her hand away, her voice breaking. "Go home, forget me, please." Ly stared at her, hurt, helpless, but still full of love. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away, each step feeling heavier than the last.
Sam stood there, tears streaming down her face, watching the man she loved disappear beyond the curve of the road. The sky began to darken, as if mourning the choice she had made. That night, she sat alone by the dim light of an oil lamp, Ly's gloves resting beside her. She ran her fingers over the soft fabric, her heart whispering the words she could never say aloud. "If only love could feed the poor heart, I would never have let you go."
But in silence, she understood, some loves are not lost because they fade, but because one heart believes sacrifice is the only way to protect the other. Weeks passed. The days grew shorter, and the first whispers of winter crept into the countryside. Sam's garden, once bright with color, had turned into muted shades of green and brown. The chayote vines drooped under the cold, and her small house felt emptier than ever. Each morning, she still followed her routine, feeding the chickens, sweeping the yard, tending to the vegetables, but the joy she once found in those simple moments was gone. Every corner of the farm carried a memory of Ly. The fence they had built together, the small teacups he bought her, the path of bricks he laid so she wouldn't walk through the mud. At night, when the wind brushed against her window, she sometimes imagined hearing his voice, gentle, steady, calling her name. But when she turned, there was only silence. Then, one late afternoon, as she returned from the market, she noticed something strange. In the garden, where the soil had long been dry, someone had planted new flower seeds, neat rows, freshly watered. Her heart skipped. She turned toward the gate and froze. Ly was standing there, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. His clothes were simple, no longer the polished suit of a businessman. His eyes were tired, but filled with quiet peace. "Ly," she whispered, the sound of his name trembling on her lips. "Why are you here?" He smiled softly. "Because I never left, Sam. Maybe not in body, but my heart never stopped being here." She blinked away tears, unsure whether to feel anger or relief. "You shouldn't have come back. Your mother—" "I talked to her," he interrupted gently. "I told her that love doesn't measure wealth. She didn't understand. Maybe she never will. But I realized something. If I kept living to please others, I'd lose myself completely. I've built my own life now, and I came back, not as the rich man you once feared, but as a man who only wants to love you honestly." Sam shook her head, overwhelmed. "Why would you still want me, Ly? I pushed you away. I hurt you." He took a step closer, placing the bouquet into her hands. "Because love isn't about who's right or wrong. It's about who stays, even when everything says they shouldn't." Her tears finally fell. "You don't know how much I prayed to see you again. And how much I feared it." Ly smiled, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then let's stop fearing. We've lost enough time." He gently reached for her hand, and this time, she didn't pull away. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying away the bitterness of the past. In that quiet moment, they didn't need grand promises, only the simple truth that love had survived every wall they built to protect themselves. From that day on, things began to change. Ly helped Sam expand her small farm, not out of pity, but partnership. He worked beside her under the sun, laughing when mud splashed on his shoes. The villagers slowly came to accept them, seeing not a rich man and a poor woman, but two souls who had fought for love and found peace in each other. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sam whispered, "Maybe I was wrong, Ly. Maybe love between rich and poor can last, if both hearts are willing to meet halfway." Ly smiled and squeezed her hand. "It doesn't matter where we start, Sam. It matters where we stand together." And as they stood in the golden light of dusk, surrounded by blooming flowers and the sound of chickens in the yard, to Sam, finally understood, love isn't about status or fear. It's about courage. The courage to believe that two imperfect hearts can build a perfect home.